Hi, it's Lisa Beyer, and we are going to be doing one of the solo sessions today. It's just me for the next 15 or 20 minutes. Actually, I'm going to try to make it 21 minutes because this is going to be my 21 Things episode for April. And the working title for this episode was actually the Burnout Edition. And the reason being is that I have been feeling tremendously burned out over the past 2 months. And I think that it is just an accumulation of the past 15 months of events, including the pandemic and just the ups and downs of running a business, employees, family life. So I've been feeling pretty burned out and I'm doing a lot of research on how I can overcome it and reverse it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a few of the 21 things, but not all of the 21 things. And my tagline for April is that April is made for mental health days, vacation, and flexible schedules. That is really the bottom line when it comes to keeping yourself healthy and avoiding burnout. And just a friendly reminder that doing your best doesn't mean working yourself to the point of a mental breakdown. And that might sound obvious, but working remote, working from home, it's easy to just never shut it off. And it was like this even before the pandemic when we were working from home, but now it's even worse because everybody's working from home and it seems like everybody doesn't have an escape from work. So try to take a break and try to maybe learn from some of the things that I'm going through so that you can avoid burnout. So let's get on with my 21 things that I'm slightly obsessed with for the month of April. If you're listening to this on another month, that doesn't mean that these are expired or anything like that. These just happen to be my 21 things for April. So number one, I want to remind everybody that earned media takes time. So earned media is basically what we do at the Buyer Group. It's public relations, and it's something that is not going to get you instant gratification. It will get you some incredible results and it will get you credibility, but PR and SEO are not something that gets you instant gratification. It takes time. Number two, if you're interested in losing 35% of your search traffic, I don't understand why you would be, but if you have not prepared for Web Vitals, you need to look into it. So Google put out an announcement about a year ago, giving brands and website owners a heads up that they need to be prepared for this algorithm update called Web Vitals. So there's a link in the show notes, or you can just Google Web Vitals and put your website URL in there and see how you score and make sure that you fix it as soon as possible, because otherwise, according to Bruce Clay, you could lose up to 35% of your organic search traffic. Number three, the words happy, honored, thrilled, and pleased. Those are the most overused words in a press release quote. So they're very generic. I can also add to that the word great. I like to avoid the word great in my writing. Sometimes when I'm talking, I can't help but use the word great. It's just, something that, just kind of comes out. But the words happy, honored, thrilled, and pleased are super overused. So try to find other words that are more original that maybe fit your brand or that sound something that your CEO would say or get a quote from him. And if he does use those words, try to replace them with something a little bit more original. Number four, I just want to remind, when you're communicating, especially in text and email, that emojis are like bullets. When you're using emojis in captions, they're not periods. If you really want to try to visually get your point across, use emojis front-loaded at the beginning of your little text sound bites or your captions. So front-load them for the best results. Now, if you have a lack of branding and creative, this is number five, a lack of branding and creative, that's going to just give more brand awareness for competitors. So there's a link in here that goes into more detail, but make sure that when you're putting together creative for your ads or for your different graphics, maybe graphics that are going to be going, images that are going to be going with a press release, make sure you keep branding in mind. So that could be as easy as making sure that your logo is part of an image. Otherwise, you're only helping the competitors. Next up, women are making history. And the women making history this past month, I want to give a shout out to Nava Berg and Facebook Horizons, and Sharon Washington was featured on Fox News for some of both Nava and Sharon were featured in these different news outlets because of what some of the projects that they did during Women History Month back in March. So two smart guys in a podcast. These are my friends, Matt Wolf and Joe Fear. They launched PodHacker, and I invite you to go check out podhacker.com, especially if you're thinking about starting a podcast, or if you have a podcast and you want to maybe give it a little bit of an audit, or maybe see how you can improve it or get some ideas. So definitely check out podhacker.com. So next up, speaking of Matt Wolf and Joe Fear, they also have a podcast called Hustle and Flowchart, and they had Guy Kawasaki as a guest, and his interview is super, super, super insightful. And he talks about why he'd rather have a podcast than write another book. And I have to agree. I think that hosting a podcast is much more effective. It's in real time, and writing a book is grueling, and writing in general can also be very time consuming and hard to get done. But when you're hosting a podcast, you can have a guest, or you can do a solo session like I'm doing right now, and communicate with your audience and relate with them. So next up, increasing engagement by 650%. Who wouldn't want to increase engagement by 650%? How can you do that? Well, try adding GIFs or animation to content. So there's a study out that shows how much more engagement you can get by adding those types of visuals to your ads or to your PR communications. Next up, I want to let you know that LinkedIn has introduced creator mode and also video cover stories. So this is a great time to go check out your bio on LinkedIn and maybe give it an update or give it an audit, but definitely take advantage any new features that any of the social channels come out with. It's a great time for you to integrate it and to implement it, because you're going to get the most exposure if you're one of the early adopters of any new features that come out. So check out LinkedIn for creating video cover stories. And this is a funny one. So Nerf has hired a chief TikTok officer. So I think this is going to be the start of something. Brands are going to be starting to hire. This has been happening over the past few years, where brands are hiring specialists in a social media channel, but Nerf has hired a chief TikTok officer. So follow Nerf and see what this is going to be all about. Hello? Oh, wait, is this thing on? Hi, it's Lisa Beyer. I just wanted to tell you really quick. I'm launching a course called Modern PR Secrets, and I wanted you to be the first to know. You can check it out at thebuyergroup.com under resources. Now let's get back to this interview. Another thing on the list of my 21 things, mobile first creativity is key. So I think we've been talking about mobile first, mobile first, mobile first, I feel like for 10 years. But Facebook is reporting that advertisers who optimize creativity for mobile experiences see 2 times higher lifts in brand awareness than those who don't. It sounds so obvious, but I see so many brands, and even my clients, some of their creative is just not thinking it's created for desktop users, when really, the majority of their users are probably mobile. So think about mobile first. One of my books that I'm reading right now is called Directions, Really Good Advice for Getting from Here to There by Haley Bateman. So that actually just came out last week, and it is sitting on my desk right now. When I was creating my course, Modern PR Secrets, whenever you create any type of course, or if you're speaking at some sort of conference and you're putting together a deck, you learn a lot when you're going through that process. So when I was working on my owned media, the section for Modern PR Secrets that talks about owned media, I was doing a lot of research on different newsletters, and I came across a lot of different newsletters, but my favorite that I want to share with you, and the links again are going to be in the show notes, the newsletter by Coley, and Coley is a influencer marketing platform, but they put out a great newsletter. And also Ann Friedman, she puts out an amazing newsletter, especially if you're a female entrepreneur. She's super inspiring, so I invite you to check out both of those newsletters just for inspiration. So if you're feeling a little bit overexposed on the internet, or maybe you want to completely erase yourself from the internet, there is actually a company called deleteme.com. So you can go and delete yourself for the most part in a lot of these directories, where if you've ever tried to look up somebody's history or find somebody that you haven't maybe lost touch with for the past 10 or 15 years, and they try to get you to sign up to pay a fee to find somebody. Those are some of the places that you can actually delete some of your personal information, like your physical address and all the places you've lived and your phone number and your email address. If you're interested in something like that, it's called Delete Me. And now getting on to what I was talking about at the very beginning, how this is the burnout edition. If you're experiencing entrepreneur burnout, it's more common than you think. There's actually a study recently that came out that showed that 75% of those surveyed claim to have experienced it in some form or another at work. Another stat, 64% say they are frequently stressed at work. I can say that I am. Causes of burnout: unsustainable workload, perceived lack of control, insufficient rewards for effort, lack of supportive community, lack of fairness, mismatched values and skills. So I'm not bragging. I scored over 600 on the burnout quiz, and that quiz, the link to this quiz is going to be on the show notes, but I'll tell you it's called the Holmes, Holmes, stress quiz. So you can also Google that if you don't want to go to the show notes. And actually, my therapist told me to take this test when I was talking to her a couple months ago about how I was feeling. I was feeling very stressed out, more than I ever have. I wasn't able to recover as quickly. I didn't feel as resilient as I had in the past. And she asked me to take this quiz. So take the quiz and see what kind of score you come back with. If you're looking for ways to reverse burnout, which that's what I'm doing, take some mental health days, take a vacation, take a leave of absence, and try to look at your schedule and maybe add some flexibility to your schedule and see if that helps. None of that actually helped for me, really. So what I'm doing right now is I'm taking about a 2-week leave of absence from the buyer group. And right now I'm actually recording this episode from Canyon Ranch, which is located in Arizona. I really didn't know what to think or what to expect. It was recommended again from my therapist that when you're experiencing burnout in the way that I am and that I have, she recommended at least 14 days or 30 days, kind of getting yourself off the front lines of life as much as you can. And this might not be something that everybody can do, but if you can do a mini version of this, then it will definitely help. So I'm going to be here for the next 10 or 12 days, and I'm on a pathway to reset my mind, body, and reverse burnout. And I'll keep you posted on how that's going to work out. But so far I've been here for a couple of days, and I do feel rejuvenated, and it's going to take baby steps. I know it's not going to happen overnight. So if you are experiencing burnout, reach out to me and let me know some of the things that you're doing to reverse it. Or if you just want to talk about it, feel free to reach out, and I'm here for you. Thanks so much for tuning in to this month's 21 Things. And my name is Lisa Beyer, and I appreciate if you're listening to this podcast and would love any feedback or recommendations, or just a shout out, or just email me and say hi. Thank you very much, and namaste. Thank you for listening to this episode of Social PR Secrets. If you like what you heard, check out the book on Amazon or follow our blog at socialprsecrets.com. This episode was sponsored by The Buyer Group, a social PR agency striving to keep our balance in the digital world, practicing public relations, social media, and search marketing, while occasionally drinking a glass of wine or two for the best creativity and results. Thank you all for tuning in. If you would like to get a free chapter of Social PR Secrets, go to socialprsecrets.com/free.